Instead of paying the charge for the theme meal this month, could I use 3 meals instead or something like that? So people were wanting to, again, barter with these meals per day. So we eventually migrated to the Westminster Dollars program in order to try to address that. Rather than make everyone use a meal, do something that's more in line with money, so that if you spend your $4 at the Garden Cafe, it only costs you, theoretically, $4, right? So you wouldn't have to waste your meal of the day on such little value. So here we have our Westminster Dollars. Residents currently are given a bulk amount. The equivalent is $10.50 per day, and they can use those at any of our dining venues. We opened up that program after a while to include postage. Then we further allowed it to evolve, if you will, to include certain concierge services. So you could use your Westminster Dollars for all of these things, so that way if you didn't eat every day in one of the venues, you wouldn't feel like you were losing out on your value. There were other ways to use those Westminster Dollars, and it wasn't just food service anymore. We're all familiar, probably, with the different cycles, right? The 5th, the 15th, and the 25th of when those values would be recharged. Pardon me. And the reason for that was assuming people would realize within a few days of the end of their period, they had some money left and they would rush off to try to spend it. If we did that all at once and everybody ended on the same day, we would expect a deluge of people running to the Garden Cafe to buy candy bars and soda pops and whatever other good things it is that you want to spend those dollars on. So that was the periods that we rolled over, and it was a 30-day period, but again, 5th, 15th, and 25th. So that's where we are now, right? Everybody is pretty familiar with this. A side note, people have asked in the last few days, well, if this new program begins January 1st, what's going to happen to my dollars I roll over on the 15th or the 25th, etc. So what's supposed to be happening is when your value is recharged in the month of December, you'll be given enough Westminster Dollars to take you through the end of the year. Then it will stop so that we're not lopping off a ton of value then when the new year comes. So that brings us to our new program. And how are we going to get this value? So what we have here is you take the value of our meal per day plus the value of standard housekeeping. We pour it in a little pot there, and Barney Fife helps us out. And he stirs it, and what comes out is the resident service credit, which is still a work in progress on the name. So what happens here is we're presenting a program that will give everyone more choices, because even with Westminster Dollars, we were still having folks worried they were out of town, or they got sick and didn't eat, or whatever the case may be, and there were too many dollars being left on the table, and people weren't comfortable with that. And we're asked, can I donate them, or can I use them to cover, something that we hadn't yet decided was eligible to be covered? So what we're hoping now with this evolution of the program is that some of those ways to utilize your credits or your dollars will become a reality. So again, the equivalent value of the meal per day plus the standard housekeeping is what will present your total value of your credit. Now, housekeeping is different based on the size of your apartment, right? A smaller apartment maybe only gets an hour per visit, which then is 2 hours theoretically a month, because it's every other week. Larger apartments or largest apartments maybe get 2.5 or 3 hours, whatever the case may be. We also know, for those that have, up to this point, been charged for additional housekeeping, that charge, and also what was reflected on that piece of paper that went out along with the announcement at end of November, was that there's $25 an hour for housekeeping, right? So take $25 an hour, multiply that by the standard housekeeping time, the standard value of the meals, we combine that, and that's going to be our meal credit, or not our meal credit, our resident service credit. The unused credit, though, will not be carried over from month to month. Again, That's not something that we're going to allow someone to build up thousands and thousands of dollars for months and months and months and avoid eating and participating in any of the services. Part of being here at Westminster Village, part of being in the community is participating in those things, coming to the dining room, going on the activities, going on the trips, and that type of thing. So we don't want to put anything in place that would seem to encourage you to not eat, right? We wouldn't want that. Hopefully you wouldn't want that either, but some people are frugal enough that they might try to do the math and figure out, if I don't eat for 2 months at the dining room, I might be able to go on that trip I wanted to go to. See the Chihuly glasses at Botanical Garden. So this is just a picture of a current bill, right? This is for a resident in apartment 1234. You can see on this bill, if you can see it, I know I blew it up about as big as I could. This is an F-style apartment. On our new program, for a single person, the value of that credit will be $522 for an F unit. And we'll get into how that's going to break down in another slide here. So, using an existing bill just as an illustration, we'd see that normally, under the current program, so the 2021 version, this person would owe $4,838.80. Not only did they have their monthly service fee, but they've got some concierge services, some garden cafe purchases, looks like a home health visit, some pharmacy, nurse visit, long distance calls, etc. Looks like the internet bundle there, and the bundle for $45. So that makes up their total. Under the new program, if this person participates in exactly the same thing and uses those exact same services, their bill will still be $4,838.80. I know there have been concerns that we're trying to take away value from people, or we're going to change it so you don't get what you used to get. I've heard people concerned that they were wanting to guarantee that they would be able to get what they signed up for, right? That we were changing things so drastically that we'd no longer be fulfilling the obligations we had made in your original contract. Now, going back again to the history presentation there, when we first started out, it was a meal a day. Once we went to Westminster Dollars, we didn't change contracts. We were still able to fulfill all of our obligations in those contracts with Westminster Dollars the way we were with Meals of the Day, and we'll continue to be able to fulfill all of those obligations under this program. So ultimately, that $522 that I mentioned on the last slide, for this person, if they get a meal a day in the dining room, if they get their regularly scheduled housekeeping with no extras, their $522 credit will be exactly enough to cover all of that. So, you're still getting your contractually guaranteed housekeeping services and your meal per day. This really is a bigger change for the business side than it is for the residents. I mean, it's going to be something different to understand and grasp the concept of. This is really a way for us to manage these programs in a more efficient way that provides better information to us on what is and what isn't being utilized. Go back to everyone gets a meal of the day. Really, we check to see if you came to eat in order to know if we needed to call you, right? To say, hey, are you okay? We didn't know what you ate. We didn't know how much of it you ate. We didn't know the costs associated with feeding you necessarily. Then we go to the Westminster Dollars. We get a little better level of detail on the meals. But some of these other contractually obligated services, as well as the ones we charge for, sometimes are recorded properly, sometimes aren't. Is there anyone in here who's never had a problem with their bill? That's what I thought. There's always something that comes up, right? Some sort of one-off situation, or a number got transposed, or we did John Smith instead of James Smith and placed the bill with the wrong person. That type of thing is always going to happen. But with this new system, because instead of giving you a value that you're going to start deducting as you use it, we're essentially going to bill you for everything. Okay, I thought there was going to be gasps or something. And when I say that, I mean record that you use the service, record the associated price with that service, so that we can build it up. And again, you'll be given this credit value that will cover those charges, so you won't actually be charged in the terms of you owe this out of your pocket now. it will be a way for us to measure what you've used. Because when you look at our contracts and you think of everything we have to offer here at Westminster Village, there are certain things that we've determined, we, the business, have determined are included with you paying your monthly fees, right? Again, going back to, 2 programs ago, it was a meal a day, that's what it was. There's this value out there though, and again, if someone doesn't eat, they feel like they're owed something or they missed out on something. So now we take that value, related on those 2 items, again, those are the 2 most popular, almost everybody eats every day. So that makes sense to really base that. It's been based on food all along anyway. Pardon me. And the other most frequent, regularly guaranteed or contracted service is the housekeeping. So that's why we use those 2 services to determine the number that we're using for everybody. Pardon me. So again, with paying your rent, there's a certain amount of services that we're considering are included with paying rent. Now, under this program, you get to decide how you're going to use those services or which services you want to be included, right? Maybe you don't want to eat every day, maybe you still cook. Maybe you just love dusting and cleaning and you don't want to use our housekeeping. Maybe that's one's not as likely, but maybe you can get by with 1 housekeeping visit a month instead of 2. Who knows, right? But under the new program, we give you kind of the determination of how you want to use this available credit to you. It doesn't have to be food, it doesn't have to be housekeeping. If you find more value in one of the other services that we provide, you're now going to be able to do that without having to incur additional expense, out-of-pocket expense, I should say. So this is an example of what a bill might look like under the new program that begins January 1st. Same apartment. I left off all the send to and all that, but this is the same person apartment went to before. Their monthly fees for 2022 are going up to $49.90, so that's there. The $522 in credit, you can see down there at the bottom. Now what this person decided to do, and how you'll likely see this on your bill once the new services begin, or the new program, you see aisle monthly service fee, and that sits there. Now this credit is not going to be available for you to try to take a discount on your monthly service fee. Okay, the monthly service fees are pretty static. That's kind of a baseline. We're not offering discounts on that. This person decided to dine in Ocotillo to the tune of $250 for the month. They went to Donnelly's and they spent $52. Housekeeping, they used $50. Now, this size of apartment, they normally would get $100 worth of housekeeping. It appears that they decided then, I only want 1 visit this month, so that's why it's only $50. Internet, TV, and phone. So this is something that's never been on the table when it comes to the use of Westminster dollars, or any of our other programs for that matter. It's on this here now. Then we have a home health nurses visit, which are always charged no matter what type of contract you're under. It's $52 an hour, or $58, something like that. Looks like maybe they had a half an hour, so it's $29. And then they had $51 worth of concierge services, for a total of $55.12. Applying then their credit, based on the size of their apartment, the $522, to that total brings it back down to $49.90. So this person managed to work their credits, if you will, so that the only thing they're going to pay is their IL monthly service fee. They used it to cover their internet, TV, and phone bundle, which again normally would just be tacked on and wasn't eligible to be covered with Westminster dollars. So all of these services, which up until now have never been eligible to be covered by such a thing, we're allowing to be covered. So that's really the big change. Instead of using the every other week housekeeping, instead of eating in the dining room every day, they used a few other services and their credit was enough to cover it 100%. Now, let's say for instance that they decided not to, or they didn't need the home health nurse visit. So we take the $29 off of there. The credit, again, is $522 at the maximum. This is the most amount of service we can justify that you are allowed to use because you're paying your monthly service fee, right? That $29 gap would just go away. We'll get to questions at the end. The same way that if you don't eat all of your meals or you don't use all your Westminster dollars, at the end of your cycle, it goes away, right, and it recharges with the full value in the next month. If you go over, then that's what you're going to pay, right? If maybe this person had their second housekeeping visit. So let's say they had $100 worth of housekeeping plus all of these other things, they'd end up owing $50. They went $50 over their credit. Now, well, I thought housekeeping was, well, yeah, it is. So it's really just a matter of what's adding up to your credit, and whatever you've gone over that credit amount is what you'll owe and what you'll be billed for.
I would hate to be the bookkeeper.
I know. I should apologize to the accounting staff for putting this in place, because it will be a bit difficult and laborious to manage, I think. But again, we're here to provide the best possible services to the residents, to allow you the most possible flexibility with the services that you choose to enjoy at Westminster Village. So that's kind of, again, this is a very brief overview. We could, don't have enough time to get into every single possible scenario of how somebody might work up their credits, or what if this happens, what if that happens. One of the things that this does provide, though, under the system is, as we all know, during COVID, we weren't able to provide regular housekeeping services, right? If this system were in place, you still would have had that value, right? You could have used it for additional meals. You could have gone to an event or something that maybe cost money. No, we weren't traveling much during COVID. You could have used it to cover your communications bundle. Pardon me. So if we run into anything like that where we have to temporarily suspend any particular service, you'll still have that value associated with that service, even if we're not providing that service, for you to choose to use on something else, or choose not to. Sorry, I had to wet the whistle there. All right, so here's our chart. Apartment style is on the left-hand side. Hopefully everyone is pretty familiar with which apartment they have. And we'll have, we will eventually put this out there so everyone knows what to expect. You'll see the first person on the left. If there are two folks in the apartment, you'll see that total on the kind of second to last column there. And the only difference really is the meals. Housekeeping doesn't change. Whether you're a single person or a double occupancy in your apartment, your housekeeping is your housekeeping. And just for reference sake, this is what I was given, I didn't determine this, of what the standard housekeeping hours are per visit, right? So each time someone in an I apartment gets housekeeping, it should be a 2-hour visit. So that's why it's a per visit, not per month and not anything else. This is per visit. So if you get a standard housekeeping visit, that last column there on the right is the total number of hours that have been determined for a housekeeping visit on that size of an apartment, and also the amount of credit that's been applied to these totals. So again, as I said, we'll be able to get this out to everybody so they'll have an idea of what they're using. And just to note, this is generic. This is supposed to cover as many people as possible. If for any reason any of you have an individual contract with Westminster Village in which any of the services are altered, or you have a special price or a special credit of some kind, then yours will change, right? This is for someone on a standard, most common out there contract. These are the values that will be applied to this service credit. I assumed people would start asking, what if I'm on the 20 meal plan? So here's the impact of the 20 meal plan. The credit that you receive on your bill, which is real money, is $47.50. That's half, sure, or even less than half of what you get in a service credit. But the reason for that, $47.50 times 10 meals, you're on the 20 meal plan, we deduct 10. Reason being that it's so different, at least when it comes to meals, is because you don't choose to eat, we still have the same amount of servers, we still have the same amount of tablecloths, dishes, dish soap, and all of that. The only thing we really, truly can say we save on by you not coming to eat because you're on the toy meal plan is the cost of just the food on the plate, right? So that's why there's such a significant difference. If you're going to eat in the dining room, the value includes the table, the waiter, the waitress, the kitchen staff, all of that. If you're not eating, all we're saving really is pure food costs, so that's why there's such a difference. But under this new program, what you would see if you're on the 20 meal plan, you'll still get your $47.50 billing credit per person, but your total that we saw on the previous slide would be reduced by $160 per person. And again, that's taking away those meals and the equivalent credit that we're given for those meals. You've decided to not have 10 meals, we're not giving you the credit for the 10 meals. You have decided instead to accept $47.50, pardon me, as a credit toward your bill. So that's the trade-off there. So hopefully that answered that question, but we can talk about that more if we need to. And then, that's pretty much the presentation. And we'll be able to start questions. Is there a, we got hands going up everywhere. So we'll start right here.
You always talk about housekeeping. Have you thought about housekeeping in assisted living?
Assisted living, that's a good question. This program really is geared toward or applicable, most applicable to those living in.
I understand that.
Right. So if you're asking, have we ever decided to clean your apartments up there? Hopefully we are. Is that what we're asking?
No.
No? Okay. Just check. I want to make sure we're at least doing that part. So the difference will be at assisted living and Wyrick for that matter, for Sackton and Wyrick, what you'll be given is the value for your day, okay? Which is very similar to the current program. You have a set price for breakfast, you have a set price for lunch, and you have a set price for dinner. Those values are based on eating those meals up at assisted living or over at Wyrick, right? So if you eat there every day, you aren't gonna have any additional charges applied to you, right? It's covered, well, shouldn't say that. Most people know, but in case you don't, when you go to one of the licensed areas, you actually are billed for the additional 2 meals per day. You should say that. And that's being breakfast and lunch, so I think it's $12 right now. I don't think we changed that for...
$10.50 now, you're going to $12.50.
$12.50 will stay the same. That's the meal that is included in your original contract.
It's $10.50 now.
Right, and it's going to be $12.50. What you pay for, the additional 2, add up to $12 per day, times 30 or 31, and that's what you end up being billed for. But if you take that $12 plus the $12.50, you'll get $24.50 for the day. If you, from one of those other venues, decide to go, or other levels of care, decide to eat in the Garden Cafe, for instance, I want to have my breakfast at the cafe. Your value for breakfast is $4.25, $4.75?
Or $75.
$4.75. You'll get $4.75 of credit at the cafe. If what you order goes over that, you'll have to pay for that.
Yes, I know that.
Okay.
But the problem is that, back to the housekeeping, the housekeepers, the caregivers are not trained as housekeepers. The housekeepers are not trained as caregivers. The caregivers should not have to be housekeepers. We should have a housekeeper, just the way independent living does.
Got it. Okay. This isn't quite the topic for this conversation, but we'll definitely relay that to those that need to hear it, okay? So if somebody would make sure to note that, there's a question on the floor regarding housekeeping up at Sackton by someone other than caregivers.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'd like to know a little bit more about the options that you showed in the pie chart for using our credits.
Mm-hmm. Sure. It's a really great pie chart. I made it myself. Even put the labels in there so that they didn't cross the lines. I was proud of it. Each department that is going to be offering services that can be billed for will be providing a list of those services to everyone. All right. So again, I and the accounting team, we don't decide what we charge you for and what we don't charge you for. There are programs far beyond the accounting department that all establish that, right? The food service department decides what to pay for the liquor, and that type of thing. We're not telling them what to charge and when to charge it. Our function really is when these departments are doing something, we ask them, they report it to us so we know to put it on your bill, right? So we're not dictating that necessarily, but as far as the services in the pie chart, again, if it's currently a billable service, it will still be a billable service.
Landscaping?
So landscaping would be a special project, not something that they're just gonna trim the trees outside and it's near your house, so you have to pay for it. It's not that at all. It would be, there are some people who have had yards built, on the ground floor, let's say, or some other special project. They've requested a specific type of tree be planted near their patio or something like that. Any of those specific, unique type of requests that are landscaping have been and will be charged, essentially. The difference now, though, is in the past, you'd have to pay for that. If there's enough credit left, you can use your credit to help cover those charges, if that makes sense.
My question has to do with the credits that each department receives. Does that include $12.50 per day for food and $20 on Sunday brunch?
Yes, it does.
And does it include 26 house cleaning trips
Yes.
per year?
Yes.
There are 26,
Mhm.
52 weeks.
Right.
So has nothing really to do, the only difference would be that the larger apartments are clean, while cleaning those are more expensive. So in other words, you've taken into account $12.50 a day, $20 on Sundays, and 26 house cleanings times 25.
That's correct. So you'll see, especially on a large, our largest apartment, single bedroom is the G, right? $962 for two people, $549. That's obviously the highest value, and the reason that that's that high is because of the housekeeping, because obviously everyone gets the same amount for meals. But yes, the calculations that were put together, 313 meals at $12.50 plus 52 meals at $20 divided by 12, etc. So that was taken into account. Yes, it was.
I have a question. For example, if I used up all my meal credits for the month, but I had somebody stay in the guest suite for 2 nights, totaling $170, but I'm going to pay for it myself, then it comes in my bill as about 17 Ocotillo, say Ocotillo, 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 rather than saying it's the guest suite, $170. So is it going to change so we're actually, on the bill, it's going to actually list what the service was if we go over, rather than have it just listed as Ocotillo for everything that's extra?
No, so, where did my bill go? So what we're gonna do, is this the right one here? No, that was it, right? Right, so the reason that we have it set up this way, where it says Ocotillo, Donnelly's, housekeeping, et cetera, if we didn't, your bill would be, potentially 20 pages long. The bills are already, when we went to the new program, we started producing these bills, people started complaining, why is it 2 pages? So we thought maybe we wouldn't want to do anything that would create a 17-page bill. But, so on these, we're going to need to kind of get in the habit, if you see something on Ocotillo that you think is wrong, to contact the food service department and have them look into it for you. Or contact accounting, we'll contact them and either put them in touch with you or find out the answer, get back to you, whatever it might be. Donnelly's as well, there will also be an ability, if you want, by request, whether it's email or printout, we'll be able to obtain that level of detail for you, but it's not something we're just going to naturally include in the bill. Again, trying to cut down on the amount of paper we're putting out and how long the bill could be if we're marking down every single meal you've had and every single visit of everything, et cetera.
The problem is, instead of calling the guest suite $170 for guest suite, they just charge it to a number of Ocotillo extra dinners, so it's not You know, I gotta keep track of what I'm spending the extra dollars for,
Sure.
the credits, because it's not listed as what it really is.
Understood. So the concern and the question really was, if I've had somebody in the guest suite for 2 nights, which is $170, rather than say guest suite 2 nights, $170, it says Ocotillo dinner 27 times or something to add up to $170. Now, that's not correct. So if you got a bill like that, let us know, because it shouldn't have been done that way. In most cases, and if there's anybody else in here who has any different experience, let me know. But in most cases, if it was a guest suite charge that's going to be on your bill, it'll say guest suite and the proper charge associated with it. So if you received a bill where it just added up something else that came to the same total, please let us know.
Okay.
Okay?
Garth, I have a question about the 20 meal and the 30 meal. Could you put that figure up? Knowing that Tom dislikes the 20 meal plan intensely.
Well, it's not really Tom. I think I talked him into disliking it. To be honest with you.
Well, he has said that anyway.
Yeah.
The question is, why would anyone then, therefore, want to be on a 20 meal plan?
Oh, I have a funny story about that, and this person knows who they are, so I want to make sure they're maybe not here. If you are here, I apologize, I won't identify you. But somebody came to me in my office with that exact question, and I explained it to them. You know, you're giving up so much ability for services for just $50 on your bill. And the individual told me, look at yourself. You're getting fat. That's why I don't eat here, and I'd rather have the $50. So, all right, fair enough. I don't think I'm getting fat because of eating here, necessarily, or that it would be in any way in support or against the 20 meal plan, necessarily. But there are some people who just would rather have the $50 credit. Perhaps they already don't eat many meals here or don't participate in many of the services, and that's somebody's prerogative. You know, if you wanted to come here and just pay rent and never participate in anything, I'd say you made a bad investment, because we have so much to offer. You'd be better off in a regular apartment complex somewhere, but it's still your prerogative to do that. So why? It would just be a personal preference, really.
Well, but they would be getting less credit, as I understand it, if they're on the
Right.
20 meal plan.
Right. They've already resigned themselves to not wanting to eat here as often, and they're okay with it.
Okay, and that, we've been told we could switch that once, period. Okay.
Right, if you're on the 20 meal plan, you'd like to switch that to the meal per day, if you will, and get the full value, you're able to do that. But again, the 20 meal plan has been done away with in terms of offering it to any new folks. So if you're already on it, you're allowed to stay on it. If you'd like to change, we have forms at the front desk, I believe. Front desk people, yes, yes, all right. We have forms at the front desk that you can ask for to fill those out. And we'll get you on the proper plan and get you the proper amount of credit. But again, we don't have any new people jumping on the 20 meal plan.
Okay, another quick one. When you put the slide up about the housekeeping and you have the different apartment sizes, that was for 2, the credit will be for 2 housekeeping visits per month?
It will be for 26 housekeeping visits per year, prorated, if you will, for 12 months, essentially. So, who's next? That way?
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Lori. My question to you is, what happens to the extra money that we have? Like I have gifts,
I'll repeat the question for anyone who didn't hear it.
and that's totaling over $100.
You say gifts, you mean gift card balance? The gift card balance, so the question was, what if I have money left over? This in particular has over $100 in their gift card account currently. The gift card value will be retained through the changeover. Not sure exactly how that's going to be done or much more detail on it, other than I know that you won't lose it. So if you have your gift card account or your gift card balance, that will still be yours until you decide to use it.
And can we use the extra money for the guest suite?
Yes. If you have somebody in the guest suite that month, you're able to use your dollars or your credit to cover that, yes.
Of course, I haven't been able to do that before.
The gift cards, I think, are
Oh, with gift cards? Oh, not necessarily dollars, but gift cards or?
No, I want to know if I can use my extra money that I have allotted to me for the month, for the guest fee.
All right, can I use my extra money allotted to me for the month for the guest suite? And the answer is yes. And if, that's been the case for a little while, yeah? Westminster dollars have been. So if you meant to use them and you didn't get to, let us know. Mr. Earl?
We have been able to use our Westminster dollars for concierge services like car washes and things of that sort. Will that continue, or is that affected in any way?
That will not be affected in any way. You'll still be able to use your value for car washes. I think, Tom, are you saying you want to comment on that? Or?
Well, I think just explain that there's no action they have to take to use the credit,
I see.
that
Okay.
accounting will do that,
Right.
and that it's for any service that's on your bill other than your monthly service fee.
Right. So, if anyone didn't hear that, the question was, you know, we can currently use our Westminster dollars for car washes. Will we still be able to do that? And the answer is yes, you'll still be able to do that. And what Tom was saying was just to clarify 2 points, really. A, you won't have to say, I want to use my credits towards this or this or this. It's just a bulk credit that's going to be applied to your bill. So it'll wipe out any charges up to that amount, except for your monthly service fee. We won't be taking any discounts off your monthly service fee, but anything else that could possibly end up on your bill, except for donations, those have to be real money. We will, essentially, accounting will apply that credit to your bill. So whether it's a car wash, or it's a home health charge, or it's meals, or it's housekeeping, or whatever it might be, again, up to that amount that goes along with your apartment, that will be applied to the bill, so. Yes.
This is about the communications package. There are some people who have a television and a telephone and a computer, but there are some people who do not have a computer, yet they are paying for that service. And now, of course, it's being increased almost double, I believe. So it is a bit more. Maybe before you thought, well, it's not so much, but now it is. I don't think it's fair that people who don't have a computer, I don't mean use it. If you have a computer and you choose not to use it, that's one thing. But if you don't even have a computer, why are you paying this fee?
Sure. I think at Tom's most recent talks, where it was actually him up here, I think he addressed that pretty well, and I don't want to necessarily flub up what he said. If he's still here, maybe he could address that. But otherwise, these days, if you will, if you were to say, I don't want internet because I don't have a computer, if we were to cut off the internet to your apartment, you will not have cell phone, you won't have iPad, you won't have television, and various other systems. Almost everything, especially if you use Netflix or any of those type of services, those are all running on the internet. So the internet is not necessarily 100% related to having a computer and surfing the internet. There are so many things now. Again, there's voice over IP, which is internet telephone, which our system will be running on. Our TV system will be using the internet for the DVR, etc. So whether you know it or not, you're most likely using the internet. And so that amount, I think what Tom had said, the point he did make that I think I can safely paraphrase regarding the value and the $45 going to $90, etc. We all know the problems we've been having with the internet in general anyway lately. So that system has been in a great need of improvement, which isn't cheap, of course. So, and what we had originally thought back when I think we first did the communication bundle, it was $65 a month maybe. And each year we knocked it down another $5, another $5. Our thinking at that point was we're going to eliminate it. We're just going to eventually say it's included. We were wrong. Doing that wasn't going to be cost effective for the business. It was a bad decision. We've chosen to reverse course, get somewhere closer to what we should have been doing anyways, correct our error, And really, if you were to, for example, go out and try to find service through Cox or something independently, you're going to be paying a great deal more than $90. So even at $90, although it is doubled from what we were paying, again, it's a mistake. It's plain and simple a mistake that we made. But $90 is still a great value compared to what you might be able to achieve or get out in the open market.
I'm going back to housekeeping.
Okay?
I have a wonderful housekeeper. I have no complaints. But I'm allotted 2.5 hours, and she's there an hour and 3/4. She has done everything. How am I credited? How is it monitored?
That's a good question. You would need to, or we would need to have somebody specifically from the housekeeping department address that. As far as my level of knowledge, I was given this list of these are the standard hours. If you have a housekeeper who doesn't use all the hours or something like that, we'll have to, address that probably outside of this, more specifically with you and any others who are experiencing that same situation, so that we can make sure we're doing it right.
Okay, I'm going to change the topic a little bit, and this has to do with the home health services. We have a lot of people that are in life care, and then we also have a significant number of folks that are on the monthly basis. And so how are you going to balance all of that? Because what the services for life care are a little different and less costly to the individual.
Sure. That's a good question. Everybody hear it? It was regarding home health and how that works based on the different contracts we have. And there's probably even more nuances to the differences in home health services based on certain contracts from somebody maybe who has been here 20 years versus somebody who's been here 2 years. But either way, that program or how it operates, we're not changing how home health works, right? If it was included or free, it will still be free. We're not adding that into anything. If you get to the point, no matter what contract you're on, where you generate home health charges today, that situation will remain the same in the future, and you can use these credits to cover those expenses should you incur them, if that makes sense. Yeah? All right, we're getting down to about 15 minutes, and I know there is a significant event coming up at 2:30, so although I would love to sit here and talk to you all day long, and I'm sure you'd all like to listen to me all day long, we will have to start wrapping it up. So we may not get to everyone. If you have a question that we haven't been able to answer, and we'll get to our next one here in a second. I have held smaller conversations with a few other groups of residents up until now. Some of those residents have a good understanding of the program and they may be able to answer your questions. Or, of course, you start lining up outside my office, I guess, if you want. And we'll do our best to get to you if we don't get to you today, okay? All right.
Okay, I don't know how to ask this question, but right now, I cannot get a reservation for dinner. The cafe is closed at 1:30, and so I have had one meal here this month. So what, are you going to change? I know why, I understand, but what do you do? I mean, and how, I'm charged, I'm just trying to use the money. I've mailed all my packages here, and I'm on a 20 meal plan, and I just can't use the money.
Sure.
So how's that going to change, or do we know?
The only thing that really we can say for certain is or that I can say for certain is going to change. I don't work in the food service department, so anything more specific we'll need to contact them perhaps, but as we're moving into the beginning of the year, and even perhaps before the end of this year, although we're pretty close already, so maybe beginning of the year. Either way, the dining venues, I believe the Garden Cafe, there are plans currently to open it all day long, so it will be open in the evening, and then Donnelly's is getting ready to start opening as well. I think it's going to be 3 nights a week. So there will be 2 nights a week? Is it 2? Okay, so there will be some additional opportunities to use your meals or the value of your meals, or get a meal for that matter, coming up here, in the next few weeks and months. So I know that doesn't answer or solve your question today, but hopefully we can take a little bit of relief knowing that that's on the horizon.
My question has to do with the billing. Up until now, we've been able to use a credit card and pay a bill on a credit card, which I understand that is no longer allowed as of the first of the year.
That's not correct. We'll gladly take your credit card. It's just that if you choose to use it, we're going to pass the fee on to you rather than absorb it ourselves.
So my question would be, can we use our credits to pay that additional amount and still be able to use our credit card?
No. The banks don't take Westminster dollars, unfortunately. We won't be able to use those to cover the 2.5% credit card fee. Sorry.
I am very concerned about the communication fees because I haven't had internet for at least 4 days, and it was my understanding that the situation would not be remedied until about the middle of February. Well, it seems to me if I'm paying for this service, shouldn't I get credit for it? I'd much rather have the service, but it's not reasonable for me to pay the complete fee and not have access to internet.
Sure, I'm sure many other people have that same question. At this point, we're not offering any credits toward that. There is a temporary solution. A contract was signed just last week, I believe, so that we'll have a solution, an interim solution anyways, until the middle of February when the new system fully comes online. And that system really involves those that are having the difficulty putting you on the corporate network rather than the resident network, because the corporate network is working. And if you are one of those individuals and they haven't already talked to you about that, let us know and we'll get somebody, to make sure that your situation will be addressed, and we'll get you that interim solution. Okay.
You have one more question.
Okay, I got it.
Last question?
Yes, all right, I guess this is the last question, so maybe we might be able to squeeze 2 in, but okay, Mr. Call?
There are 2 kinds of charges or classes of charges that will come against our credit. One is a fixed charge or a set charge, and the other is a variable or variable charge by job. Will you be publishing a listing of the set charges? And when will that be published?
Okay, I believe there are lists, Tom's been working on them with the various departments to produce the lists of what will be charged, what won't be charged, how it will be charged, if it's an hourly, if it's a set fee for a task, etc. So those lists will be coming sooner than later. Again, Tom's working on that with the various department heads, so the concierge folks will give him a list of concierge services, the food service folks. I think, it's either tomorrow or Friday, I don't know. Nick Apostles. Tomorrow. Nick will be actually having another presentation to speak specifically on food service related charges. I don't know, is there another presentation related to any of the other individual departments at this point? No? Okay. So look for those lists. They will be published. They'll be put into the mailboxes. And it should be, I would expect, before the end of the year, obviously, if they're going into effect on the 1st.
2 o'clock tomorrow.
By 2 o'clock tomorrow? Randy says it has by 2 o'clock tomorrow, so there you go. All right, last question for real this time.
I'd like to know, are there going to be charges, are we going to be charged now for IT help when we have help for our computers and all that sort of thing?
Right. Again, the concierge department will be putting together the list of what will have charges associated and what won't. Generally speaking, there will be some IT-related tasks or IT department tasks that will not have charges related to them, and there will be some that will. And we'll, again, we'll need to get that detail on the list that will come out to everybody in the mailboxes. So, again, if we didn't get to your question, I apologize. I know this has been a big group, and we're up against another event coming up here shortly, so we have to stop. But either write it down, come see me, speak to some of your fellow residents who may be able to